Hello everybody, and by everybody I mean nobody, because it's 4:42 a.m. where I live. But for all you watching the recording, here's what's going on. I've got this 3D printout. So I sculpted this in ZBrush, and I was originally going to do this for the book cover. I was going to have this kind of like a cameo of the main character from the book, and then just have it lit really nice and render it beautifully. And then I thought, since I have the CG model anyway, I could print it out, I could make I could cast it or mold it and cast it, and then I'll have promotional, like physical things to send around to people and drum up publicity. That was the idea. So here's what happened. The way I got this printed, because I have experience ordering prints from this place with this particular material. This is their highest res material. And I mean, it's still, like, no matter how high res it is, it's still gonna have, if you look really close, little scan lines in this day and age in 2017. Hopefully that will not be a thing for much longer. Anyway, I mean, you can see the lines on the back here very clearly, right? So because I knew there would be lines, and I was doing kind of a wood or ivory grain to this, I thought it would be best to get it printed. How did I get it printed? I think standing up like this. So I built a little frame around it so that the scan lines would match up with the wood. Hello, Mohammed Raka Aditya. I'll bet I got your name perfect, didn't I? Welcome. I knew I'd see some new folks on here if I streamed at a crazy time in my time. I'm sure it's a perfectly sane time in your time on that side of the world. So I thought it'd be fun to see who pops up when I do a 4:45 a.m. stream. Yeah, so that was my brilliant plan, and it mostly worked. But you can see there's these weird lines that travel across the face there and across the neck there. So I've got these print artifacts. I sprayed this with a primer, and I sprayed it pretty thick too, which wasn't too great for the rest of the details. But yeah, so there's a couple things I could try to do. Well, there's two things I could try to do. Hand of the light, welcome. It's 8 a.m. for you. All right. Much more reasonable than 4 in the morning. Yeah, you must be on the east coast of the US or South America or something. So I'm just gonna try this on the neck down here, since that's not the primary focus. I mean, you gotta talk about the worst place for this artifacting to happen. Right across the eyes, right where you want your focus to be. Dottie, hello. Didn't expect to see you here this early. So I'm going to try scraping on the neck. See, the problem is I have this really subtle grain in there, right? Which I love. I love that grain. And any scraping that I do to get rid of this artifacting is going to also wipe out that grain to a certain extent. So I'm wondering, maybe if I scrape in the direction of the grain, it won't be such a big deal. I'm not sure. But another thing that I'm thinking is that the details around the eyes are pretty blown out. The lips you can't really see very well. I just feel like I could accentuate certain elements, like especially the top of the eyelid there and the top of the lip there. So I was thinking I might add some epoxy sculpt there but then it's going to be really tricky to blend that into the subtle grain. Yeah, so basically I'm just kind of poking at this gently to try to figure out the best way to make this good. I mean, because this print probably cost me 80 or 100 bucks, so it weren't cheap, and I'd like to salvage it if I can. One of the unfortunate things is that the material itself is translucent, so it's very difficult to actually see what I'm doing as I scrape it. I'm going to have to spray it with some primer again just to see what I've done. Angelica Butterfly Kisses Nursery Miles. Wow, that is quite a name. Good morning. Tomas Grus. Hello. It's definitely not as big a problem when it gets into this kind of just designy areas here. You really can't see it much at all. By it, I'm talking about the artifacting still. You know what I mean by artifacting? I don't know. Is that just a CG term? It's like JPEG compression, you know, when you see pictures that have been compressed really badly on the internet, or, you know, like video that's got dots and grain all over it, that's artifacts. That basically means that the compression algorithm, or the printer head, or the printer nozzle, you know, whatever the thing is that's making the product, the fidelity is not perfect, and so you end up with visual anomalies, I guess you can say. And that's what an artifact is. I also noticed after I got it printed that this little section where the neck hits the border, the neck actually went up and over the edge a little bit, so I'm having to carve that down. I don't know if I actually accomplished anything here besides just scraping the primer off. I'm going to hit this with primer real quick. One moment. Tomas says, what's the song in the background? I've heard it before, but don't know the name. If you've heard it, it's probably only because you heard it on this stream. This is a friend of mine's band called Sublimation. And other people on the stream have tried looking for it online and unsuccessfully. I keep meaning to ask Andy if there's a place to get it. In fact, you know what? I gotta wait for this paint to dry. I'm gonna email him real quick right now. So all this time I've been pronouncing bas relief. I've been pronouncing it bas relief. And then I just looked it up online because I put it in the title because I wanted to make sure I was doing it right. And it said bas relief. But then I looked it up on another dictionary, I think dictionary.com, and it had bas relief and bas relief, so that's cool. Okay, let's see. Andy. People on my stream keep asking me about your music, your sublimation. Is there a place I can point them? Alright. Next time someone asks, hopefully I'll have a better answer. Tomas says, maybe it sounds similar to something I've heard. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty 90s stoner rock. It's a thing. Well, it does look like I managed to pretty wipe out that artifact pretty well. I don't see it. What do you guys think? If you saw it before, does that line, would you notice that line if you didn't know it was there? I guess the bigger challenge is this one, so I can go ahead and do some scraping here. Pretty sure I'm still going to have to do some resculpting too, but if that sculpting doesn't also have to like fix the me wiping out the subtle, what was I calling it? Grain? Yeah, the subtle grain, then I'll be in a better place than I thought I would be. End of Light says, so you aren't wrong, is what I'm hearing. Yeah, I'm not wrong that I was saying I was saying bas relief, because when I first heard someone pronounce it that way, I felt like an idiot that all my life I had been saying bas relief, because, you know, that's what it looks like in English. You pronounce the S, but of course, being an art thing, it's naturally probably French, and almost all of their letters are silent. Those darn French. And so I've been trying to pronounce it correctly, bas relief, all this time. You know, when I find out I'm wrong, I like to try to be right afterwards. Like, in the past couple years, I came to the decision that I need to start pronouncing caramel correctly, because being raised with a West Coast accent, everyone calls it caramel. The sweet treat is caramel. But at some point I read it And I was like, wow, there is totally an E in there, and or caramel. Oh, there's an A in there that I just was not pronouncing. You know, something really annoying. This stuff, within the last year or so, I'm assuming because of people who huff it or whatever. I don't even know how you would do that with canned air. However they do it, there must have been some law passed, and they made this stuff so that it has this foul tasting residue that gets all over your hand, like your fingers and your lips. I keep tasting it after I use this stuff. Super annoying. Yeah, I've never actually done serious bas relief before, and so I thought, you know what, let's just try it the easiest way first, and that was to take my 3D sculpture. I'll show you, I have my 3D sculpture of this guy, and I just took him in on the computer and just like squished him on the y-axis or whatever. And I had to do some touch-ups, because there were places under the hair that were getting, little voids trapped in them. So I had to do some sculpting in there. Demi, aloha! You better not be in Hawaii, because it's just stupid early for you there. Let's see. I know you like islands, so you could be in Hawaii for all I know. Yeah, oh, right. So anyway, my point was that squashing them down worked for the most part, but like I said, some parts just got totally lost, like the top of the lip and the brow ridge. So keep that in mind next time I do bas relief. Want to make sure I'm still emphasizing the scar down his cheek too. I did deepen that after I did the squashing. But since I'm going to be spraying it with primer again, it'll probably get lost if I don't re-emphasize it now. Demi, yeah, I know you're in Cyprus, but you said aloha, so thought maybe you had moved, you had island hopped. Right, I'm gonna prime that again real quick. Yeah, the most important part of his face, being the eyes, are just totally washed out. So I'm gonna take some epoxy. Let's see, I keep forgetting if this is epoxy sculpt or clay. Epoxy sculpt. Got some gray color. I'm gonna mix in a little bit of white so it matches as closely as possible to the primer. Oh yeah, Demi, of course I remember you're from Cyprus, that completely separate country from Greece. I've learned things. Now I'm curious about all the other islands I assumed were parts of Greece as well, like Lesbos and Patmos. Are those separate states as well? Like different countries? They're about the same color. Now it's a little too light. Just a smidge of black. Tomas is saying no. Well, no means no, so I'll take it. So for those of you not in the know, epoxy sculpt is two-part epoxy. Is it a resin? I don't know if epoxy and resin are actually different things. They probably are. Either way, you mix them together and then it makes a clay that's workable for about an hour or so. And then it sets up hard as rock. I should keep this guy out for reference. So make sure that I'm emphasizing the same features. Demi says those islands are part of Greece. Tomas says Lesbos is not independent. Good to know. Elizmar Leet says, does Josh still work at ArenaNet? Been a while since I checked. Yes, as a matter of fact, yesterday was apparently my 14th anniversary there. I never thought I'd work at a game company for 14 years. It's crazy. Every other company I worked at, the place closed. The longest I'd ever been at a place before that was 5 years. I was at a place for 6 months, a place for like 3 months, a place for almost a year, and then the place for 5 years, and then ArenaNet. So yeah, I mean, when you look at the 3D version of Bowmark, his eyebrow ridge is very prominent, and here it looks like he has no eyebrows at all. So let's fix that. I might be able to get away with just doing the closest eyebrow ridge, because the further one away is receding into the background anyway, so. What I'm afraid of is once I add depth to there, it's going to make everything else look too shallow. And I guess it's just a matter of making all the equivalent depths equally deep. Does that make sense? I guess what it comes down to is with bas relief, you're trying to create an illusion of depth where very little depth exists, and it doesn't matter accuracy about how far away things are proportionately, how far away they are from the plane of, I don't know, like I would see it as almost like a camera lens or whatever. However far away it is from that is a perceptual thing that you can play with a lot to emphasize certain elements and de-emphasize others. Because when I did it perfectly accurately, which, I mean, taking a sculpture and literally squashing it on one axis is as technically accurate as you can get, but it didn't produce an artistically satisfying result. That is what I learned. Dottie says, I always thought epoxy was a form of glue or adhesive. Yeah, I think it is. I mean, but it's used for other things. Like, epoxy is also used for, well, no, maybe that's resin that I'm thinking of. Like, you know, when you have bugs and stuff that are in a clear substance, that's resin, that's not epoxy. And I work with these things every day. I should probably know these little facts. So right now I'm not concerned with how far this is actually sticking out, like it looks like a caveman right now. I'm just trying to make sure that the lines are properly laid in before I go in and start smoothing it back in. You can see how beautifully this stuff smooths, blends into the material around it, especially when it's freshly mixed. And I'm using, I'm using this liquid called safety solvent from the same company that makes the epoxy clay. It smooths things a little better than water. Elazmar says, that an original character or from some type of work? It is an original character from my work. Me and my writing partner have been designing a world, a sci-fi fantasy world, and my mom, who is my writing partner, has been writing novels in it. And so this is Bowmark, who is the protagonist of the first novel we're releasing by the end of the year, is what I keep saying. And by golly, I'm going to hit that date. Yeah, his name is Bowmark, and the book is called The Scarred King. He sets off on a journey, big epic quest around the planet of Telefar, well, one of the continents, and comes back with a lot of scars. Yeah, I feel like now that I'm getting his brow ridge feeling more substantial, like his cheekbone needs to be a little more emphasized as well. Not going to do that though until I've smoothed this down all the way, because I'm not sure about that yet. Angelic Butterfly Kisses Nursery Miles says, you are right, it's called epoxy resin that the little bugs are preserved in and that floors are covered in. Interesting. Okay, so that's why I have it confused, because they have both words in it. Epoxy resin. I'm losing the pupil and the little highlight in his eye. Enode, I have no idea what that means. But please keep it family friendly. So I'm trying to figure out how how to bring this ridge out while still preserving the detail of the eye in there. Because as I'm putting this in, it just, I don't know if it's, the eye has always been that, what is it? It's like, it's noisy. The eye is noisy. I think it's just the printer resolution isn't quite up to all those details in there. So I'm going to try to very gently carve it back in. And then I could just make a new highlight once the area around it is set. Maybe I should give him a little bit of bottom eyelid as well. I think I'm going to try that. Medallion looks like he's doing the rock eyebrow raise now. Yes, Elismar, it does look like that. I think he's smelling what the rock is cooking. Demi says, is this the new camera? No, I just have it set super close, and I forced the focus in a, just to be in one spot. So for this particular stream, that works because I don't need to move the camera all over because I'm just working on this one tiny little thing. The new camera, I've got a friend who bought it, and she is going to bring it to our little lunch meeting on Monday, and I'm gonna check it out and see, because it's got like every feature that I need except people complain about the autofocus, but all the cameras that have really good autofocus, they lack other really important features like a flip around screen. Because I need it to be able to, you know, monitor myself, and 4K, like, it's stupid to spend a bunch of money on a camera right now and not get a 4K camera. That's gonna be outdated in, you know, less than a year if it's not 4K. So I'm thinking that the autofocus won't be a big deal if I'm grabbing the camera like this and moving it around, and it's got a tap to focus. So I can see exactly what I'm shooting, and I can just, when I move it, I can just tap it and it should lock on. That's my theory, so I'm going to find out on Monday if it actually works that way. And if it does, then I will happily get that camera. Yeah, see, now that his eyebrow ridge comes out and then he's got the bottom eyelid, I'm definitely feeling like I need to give him a little raised cheekbone as well. Subtle. If I keep doing that, I'm going to end up covering, like, re-sculpting his entire face, which, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world to do that, but I don't know if it's necessary yet. All that work I went into carving the scar down, getting blown away. paintbrush is awesome for blending this as well. Although I got a little too much stuff on it. See, his cheekbone has a very sweeping arc going down. I want to make sure I'm capturing that. These bristles are a little too stiff, so they're actually dragging brush marks in there, but that's okay. I'm just kind of trying to get the material built up in the areas I want it. Yeah, I think I gotta just do a little scraping here. I was thinking it might be a fun thing to make a collector's edition of the printout book, because we're gonna have like print on demand if you want to buy a physical version of the book, to do like a super collector's edition where I was gonna make a cover that is this emblem, like on an actual, if you can imagine, like I guess I'd essentially be making a fake, like a faux leather cover that I could glue over the regular printout book, but it would look like leather, and then have this would be like stamped onto the middle of it, and then of course signed by me and my mom. Someday it'll be worth millions. Pre-order today. Elizmar says, now he looks a little confused, like he's not quite sure why he's here. And then says, oh, that sounds awesome, like a leather type cover. Yeah, that's the idea, is to make something awesome and kind of fantasy looking. I love my leather bound Lord of the Rings books. Now I'm just making him look like a zombie, tearing his eyes out. Elismar says, each one handcrafted. May need to put a limit on those. Oh yeah, it would be a limited collector's edition for sure. Probably do like, you know, 20 or 50 or something like that. Trying to pull a little bit of that eyebrow down to the other one so I can give him, see, he's got these, you know, you've got these muscles that pull up around the inside of the eyebrow ridge, and when you're concentrating or frowning or a variety of expressions, they bunch up a little bit. So that's what I'm trying to make sure I've got going on here without turning it into the Rock. I mean, he doesn't not look like the Rock to begin with, you know. He's got a few rockish features. His face isn't as wide, but he's like an islander dude, you know. They've got similarities. I think I'm going to have to come in and clean up this eye after the socket around it is done, is set. Which means it's just going to have to look weird for a little while. Alright, let's see if we can tackle this upper lip. Demi says, how are you going to paint this? Realistic, or is it going to look like a bronze medallion? I was going to do it like a ivory-ish look. Since it's got that grain in it, it should be either wood or ivory. Originally, I was going to do all the book covers as a cameo like this with the protagonist. You know, each book has a different protagonist, and they would all be ivory, just because I like white on white. I think that's a cool look. But I'm having a really hard time. Well, okay, here's what it comes down to. I was arrogantly presuming that since I know how to sculpt, I would pick up bas relief in a snap, and it turns out no, it's enough of its own thing that it's got its own learning curve. And so I'm no longer comfortable saying that I'm going to have bas relief for everything. So I'm thinking I'm just going to do beautiful render of a sculpture like this and just do it in like marble or something. Osmar says, so we're calling it now Rock, going to play him in the motion picture adaptation. You know, I have plans for the motion picture versions of my books, and they do not include real-life actors. They do not include Hollywood at all. I am not a fan of Hollywood. My great hope is that George Lucas's work that led to James Cameron's work, where they both have been pushing the boundaries of how CG and live action meet, you know, with the prequels, which are terrible. I don't want to make anything like the prequels, but the technology that he worked on that then Cameron was able to leverage for Avatar, which is also a terrible movie. But my hope is that that gets cheap enough that one day people like me can, you know, with a normal sized team of artists, can make the next Game of Thrones with animated characters, but that look absolutely real. Like we gotta get through the uncanny valley, making progress, a little bit of progress every year. But that's my hope, is to make a series like Game of Thrones, but in my world, with my characters, and all CG. But you would never know it's CG. You would look at it and think, oh, that's an actor. But then you never have to worry about those actors aging or dying or whatever, because they're on a computer. Still need a person to do the voice, probably, although even that, now we have technology where if a person speaks for a minute or something, a computer can pretty much reconstruct virtually anything, like can make them say anything. So even that's not going to be a limitation soon. Elizmar says, I'd say more Jason Momoa. Pre-super buff Aquaman, though. More Stargate Atlantis. Yep. I'm a fan of the way that guy looks. I dressed up as, crap. What's his Game of Thrones character? Keep wanting to say Ragnar. It's definitely not that. Drogo. Yeah, I dressed up as Drogo for my film project, and also for where did it go? PAX a couple years ago. You want to see a picture of my cosplay? I'll find it for you real quick. I know y'all want to see my cosplay. My computer, however, does not want to see my cosplay. It wants to be very, very slow. Where'd it go? It was right on the cover. You guys, if there's nothing better in a stream than watching a person try to find something on their Facebook page, I don't know what it is. Here we go. Call Drogo. Yes, here we go. Can you guys see that? I think I have it set to public. LSR says, mean Dances with Wolves in Space. I don't know, too much CGI can kill something. You'd have to be on levels on Uncharted cutscenes at worst, or at best WoW cinematics, not the movie. That was horrible. Yeah, nothing is there yet. That's the thing. But we're making progress. I would not make my my dream movie until that technology is perfected. Until you literally can't tell the difference between CG and real life. I'm patient. I got time. I'm not expecting it to be there for another 10 or 20 years. And that is alright with me. I'll just get older and better at my craft. Now he's got duck face going on. This is not the look I'm going for. Demi, you like all them pictures? Yeah, I like taking creative, silly pictures. Right now, this is making him look almost sinister. It's definitely not the look that I want. I mean, it's scary because at this scale, like, just the minutest little alterations can change an expression drastically. Alismar says, "Darn, didn't know you were hiding all that hunkiness under the zebra jacket. Medallion's looking better, less rock-like now. Still has confused look, though." Yes, he is still confused. He is reflecting my own confusion at this point. Maybe I've just got this guy going down too far. Give that a little more lift. That eye is just so bad. I almost think I need to just drill it out and do a new one. Well, okay, the thing I still haven't done though is go in and try just like reducing this bulge by half. See if that helps. Oh, I also have not put his eyebrows on. Maybe that's gonna help. Looks like his derpy brother. Hey brother, how's it going? What you doing? Nothing. Dottie says your Khal Drogo cosplay looks amazing. Thanks, Dottie. Inksta, hi Inksta, says just joined, Josh. What is that made out of, and why are you wearing gloves? These are both 3D prints. So I made them in ZBrush and I got them printed out. This is supposed to be the same character, but when I did the bas relief version, I just squashed him, and some of his details didn't quite make the cut. So I've been emphasizing certain things. I'm using epoxy sculpt, this stuff, to do that adding, and I'm wearing gloves because when you mix the epoxy sculpt, it gets residue and gunk on your hands if you don't. And in general, I'm just a hair OCD about having sticky gunk on my fingers. I know people who use this without gloves. I can't do that. Demi says, if the left side of the brow wasn't so intense, smooth it a bit more, maybe where it reaches the nose bridge, because it looks like he's frowning, unless you want that for this piece, of course. No, I mean, I'd like to capture this same look, which is kind of a, I don't know, heroic, determined, thoughtful look, pensive, I don't know. I kept moving stuff around until it looked how I had it in my imagination, and now I'm trying to reproduce that in bas relief, and it turns out that's darn hard. Who would have known? Who would have guessed it? Probably anyone who's ever done bas relief could have told me that, but Inksta says, thanks Josh, I asked because it looked like the Super Sculpey from the tutorials. I have been following those, by the way, almost finished. Can you critique? Yeah, definitely. Always happy to critique. You can post a link to it on one of the YouTube videos. You could hit me up on social media. All my links to social media are in the description of this video. If you can figure out a way to post a link directly in the comments, go for it, but my understanding is that can't be done. So the little divot under his nose lands right here. Let's see. His upper lip kind of has fairly smooth rainbow arc to it. But angles do funny things, or curving lines do funny things when they're at angles. Osmar says, random question. Picture of you on, I'm guessing, Dumbledore's staircase, giant eagle. That have any influence on Soul Beast? Can't look at that and not think Soul Beast, lol. Checking your Facebook pics, by the way. Totally not in a creepy way, just enjoying them. Well, you know, that's why I made them public, so people could enjoy them. That eagle is, yeah, I was at Universal Studios in Harry Potter World or whatever. It's a great ride. It's great theme park. I really enjoyed that. I love the Harry Potter movies so much. Need to find a brush that is both short and small and rigid. I'm not having luck. He said, wait, you were on Grimm? Well, I was on the set of Grimm like 3 or 4 times. Did I ever actually end up in? I feel like every time I went, I end up. Oh, right. Yeah. So the one time I was actually in the shot, they had 2 cameras rolling, and of course they used the camera where, like, that was on the other side of a pillar. So you like see my elbow for half a second. I was also an extra on the Librarians, and that one you could actually see like the side of my face and some of my hair for a moment. And after that I decided it wasn't worth the drive to Portland, because it's like a 3-hour drive and then you end up waiting around all day. You have to take a day or 2 off work to do it. I just did it as a lark once, because my cousins were doing it. You know, they had like a sign up thing or whatever. I was down visiting my parents who live in Vancouver, which is just across the river from Portland, and they did a extras casting call. I guess it's not casting, I don't know. And a call for extras while I was down there, and so a bunch of my cousins and I went, and they took pictures of us, blah blah blah, and I got a couple callbacks to go. And yeah, I went 3 or 4 times, ended up like sitting in a freezing cold tent or in a freezing cold room for 12 hours, and then I'd get paid and sent home. It was not the positive experience I was hoping for. But I did get to bump into the actors a time or two. That was fun. You know what I'd love to be on in Portland is Portlandia, but maybe the extras company I'm signed on with doesn't service that one. Yeah, the first time I got called down for Grimm, I was so excited because they were looking for a Spice Shop customer, and the Spice Shop, that's like the coolest set in that show, was basically going to be like you know, buying something and walking out and like silently saying goodbye, because an extra can't say words, right? So just like nodding or waving goodbye to Rosalie while walking out. And man, it got close to that. And then after waiting around for hours and hours, they were like, actually, I guess we don't need this thing to happen. So never mind, go home. Shibboleth, is this a medallion relief? Yes, it is. I'm trying to fix a 3D printed bas relief that I had printed from a sculpture that I sculpted in ZBrush. I sculpted this in ZBrush. I squashed it flat, stuck it on a medallion, got that printed, and it just didn't turn out quite as well as I had hoped. So I'm accentuating elements and quite possibly wrecking the whole thing. We'll see. I think regardless of what I'm doing right now, I'm going to end up like carving out this whole eyeball and just re-sculpting it from scratch. But I'm getting the brow ridge fairly, it's so hard to tell because the shape of the eye interplays so much with a brow. Obviously it is an eyebrow after all. It's hard to do one without the other, but there's no way I would be able to get in there and do all the itty-bitty detail I need to do without ruining the eye socket around it, or vice versa. So Lilligrim says, hi, just figured out how to chat. Graham from UK. Hello, welcome from the UK. Are you saying that your name is Graham from the UK? I would guess so, since you go by Lilgrim. Okay, so one thing Bowmark does not have is super thick eyebrows. They're pretty thin. So I need to make sure that that is mirrored here. Lilgrim, feel free to ask any questions or make any comments or insult my intelligence or my looks. You could insult my voice, that's a good one. Or you could just tell me I'm great. It's up to you. But I like to hear from you guys. The favorite insult I ever got was on my gummy worm video that I did. Someone commented and said, this... Okay, so it was like in the form of an incredulous question. He said, this middle-aged fat emo hipster is in charge of living world? That explains a lot. That cracked me up. Middle-aged fat emo hipster. I printed that out and, you know, made a name tag for it and put it on my computer. It's so wonderful. Okay, this brow ridge bulk needs to continue down to the cheekbone. Unfortunately, I'm getting to the point where the clay is no longer as manipulable as when it's fresh. Wilgrim says, it is indeed, love your channel. It's cool to catch you live and say hi. No insults, haha. Yeah, I'm glad you're able to catch it. I decided to do a live stream at 4 in the morning my time, just because I just had a weird sleep schedule thing. I think some new medication I'm on makes me like super exhausted, so I woke up at 11:30 on Saturday morning. So, you know, sleep in like as usual, wake up at 11:30, and then I was like dead exhausted at 8 o'clock. So I went to bed after being up for, you know, 9 hours, went to bed and slept for about 3 hours, and then woke up and couldn't go back to sleep. So I was like, let's just call it the next day. And since I'm up in the middle of the night anyway, I was like, hey, I should see if I can catch some folks on the other side of the planet, since, you know, I normally stream on weekends at around noon or 1 my time, and then on Wednesday night it's always at 8 p.m. my time. So yeah, I figure I can catch some more people, some different people. LS Mar says, enjoy the love now, my friend. Halloween is coming. Your clock tower will bring the negativity. I had such an interesting debate when that first came out with someone, that they just were slamming me for being just a terrible designer and just bad person in general for making that map. And I just had this super protracted, I wouldn't call it an argument, I would call it a discussion, but the guy was very angry most of the time, where I just, like, I'm always interested in ideas, and so I was trying to get at, like, okay, what does this person's gripe tell me about, like, my design sensibilities and my decisions? Because I'm always open to the idea that I am wrong, that I screw up and make mistakes and I shouldn't do that. And so I see those kind of discussions as opportunities to grow. But over the course of a couple days, and probably, I don't know, 15 or 20 back and forths on YouTube comment section, the guy apologized and said, you know, I still don't quite agree with what you did, but I can at least understand why you did it now. And so I found that to be quite an invigorating experience, and gave me probably more faith in humanity than I should have. DJ Gaiden, hey DJ, says, you don't like that middle age. Maybe you mean I don't look that middle age? That was in fact the only part of his critique, let's call it that. That was the only part of his critique of me that was accurate, because I am 42, which is smack dab in the middle of middle age as far as I can tell. Although at the time I was probably 39, but that's still pretty close to middle age. See, now I feel like I also need to pull this nostril out. I knew this was going to happen. I knew the second I started adding depth in one place, I would end up putting it everywhere. That's fine. I like sculpting. It's okay to do that. My only concern is that with all this additional sculpting on it, he's going to end up not looking like the same character. Angelic Butterfly Kisses Nursery Miles says, yes, nothing but love. You have been nothing but inspiration for me and my work. Can't thank you enough. Oh, that is so sweet, Angelic. Thank you. DJ Guidance says, look, still not used to this pixel autocorrect. Oh. Okay, saying I don't look that middle-aged. Yeah. Yep, all you gotta do is have like 12 affectations and people won't be able to tell how old you are. So, have crazy anime hair, wear guy liner, put chains on your clothes. What else is weird about me? Get big muscles, and then yeah, no one will be able to tell how old you are until you're like 50, and then they'll be like, why does that loser think he's getting away with dressing that way and looking that way? I haven't got there yet. I'm sure it'll hit me pretty soon. But that's alright. I like getting old. I look forward to age. Lil Grim says, my sleep is the same. Usually I'm up watching at 4 a.m. It's 2 in the afternoon now. Really enjoyed the 101 vids. Huge help to me. Awesome. Yep, those are by far my most popular series. And I'm working on sequels as we speak. Well, not literally as we speak, because this is not for a sequel to that. But I've got scripts and projects under works for it. Yeah, wow, adding this nostril was actually a huge help, I think. Yeah, Logrim, let me know what you are interested in seeing, like what type of stuff. People have asked for how to do teeth, like the inside of mouths, so I'm definitely going to be covering that. People have asked for dragons, so I'll be doing a dragon tutorial. I've got my my friend has told me he will help me with it, with the dragon one. But it's a matter of getting him to actually come over that's tricky. But that would be super awesome because he worked on Jurassic Park and on Dragonheart. So the guy knows dragons. Inksta says, Josh, do you know where you can get a decent rake tool from? I've been looking for ages, but just find more tools like the one you're using there. No, I don't know where to get good rake tools. At least not ones that aren't crazy expensive. I just make my own. I get loop tools, and I take a Dremel tool with a little cutting wheel and just put my own little notches in there, and it works fine. So I've also seen people use guitar strings and bass guitar strings. You know, you loop it around in a pocket, like you take a little loop of wire and you put it from one end to the other, and then you like epoxy that down, and then that makes a good rake. I have not done that personally, but I know people who have. Elismar says, early Dragonheart movies or one of the later direct-to-video type sequels? I didn't know there were sequels. He worked on, he designed the original Dragonheart. Sean Connery character. I think he was working at Phil Tippett Studios. I think they're the ones who did that design. I mean, okay, no one single person designs a character, right? But he was like the main guy. It was pretty much his sculpture that ended up as the base for it. Unfortunately, after they scanned it, you know, back in the mid-90s or whenever that was, 3D scanning and such was not great, and the final character didn't turn out that good looking, but his maquette, the actual physical sculpture that he did, is awesome. I'm still not getting that upper lip right. I think I'm gonna mix a fresh little blob. Lilgrim says, yeah, teeth would be cool to see, and fantasy stuff. Maybe human hands, as I struggle with all the small flat planes and getting the scale in relation to the rest of the figure. So, what was lacking in the hands tutorial that I made already? Or have you just not got to that part yet? I'm going to try to make the mouth bulge a little more prominent. I think that'll help make this upper lip not so duck-like. Inksta says, what will you do with the medallion when it's finished, and what do you do with the rest of your sculptures you make? I'm worried I'll end up with a house filled with odds and ends. Yeah, you will end up with a house full of odds and ends. Unless you, like, sell them all on eBay or something. This medallion, I'm hoping to make little, basically collectibles for giveaways for promotion, to promote the book. And I'm also thinking of using it as a to make like a faux leather book cover to put over a collector's edition of the book. You know how, you know the Never-Ending Story book, how it's got that Orin design or whatever on the cover? I want to basically make something like that, but with, you know, Bowmark on there. Demi says, I really love the old hand that's coming out of the clay pot. All the detail was great to watch. Thanks. That was a very weird project to make, because it was like the design was all pretty much just based on putting everything that I wanted to teach into one sculpture, which is, this is just a silly thing to do, but I like being silly, so. And I like how bizarre the end result is. I like weird things. You may not have noticed, but I do. Hefero says, hey, I saw the Reddit thread about you and just wanted to quickly say hi and happy anniversary at ANET. Thanks. Are you talking about a recent one? I have not seen a recent Reddit thread. I saw one that had the Nintendo Power magazine article in it. Was there one about my 14th anniversary? If you ever want to do me a favor, when you see a thread about me on Reddit, post a link to my YouTube channel or website. I don't want to do that because I don't want to look like a self-promotion. You know, the word that sprang to mind is a naughty word, and I should think of a different word for people who self-promote. But I don't mind asking other people to self-promote me. Hypocritical much? Yeah. So when he's got that cheekbone, suddenly this whole area gets like super flat. But if I add material to that area, I'm going to have to push the cheekbone out even more. Well, maybe going in won't be so bad because it'll emphasize the nose ridge there. Whoop. Earthquake. Lilgrim says, yeah, seen that, was great. Just a little more of the same as I'm useless at them. Haha, maybe holding things and gestures. Okay. Yeah, actually the first sequel I'm doing is a good size hand, so there will certainly be some handy tips in there for you. Inksta says, could you make some reference casts like Philippe France? I have tried to get one in the UK, but the shipping is more than the cast. They're super helpful. Couldn't do a mouth at all before. I mean, I could, but I don't think shipping would be any cheaper from here. And I don't know, I don't I don't think I'm at the point in my skill level where I'd be comfortable sending out stuff that says, like, this is a template that students should follow. There are plenty of other artists out there who are much better than me who have done that, and their stuff is available. So I'm happy to provide education for free to beginners and intermediates, but I'm not happy to say, hey, everyone should look to me as a exemplar of this craft. Hefero says, yeah, there was one posted like an hour ago, and it does have the link to your channel on it. Oh, excellent, thank you. CJ Cruz says, may I ask what kind of clay you are using? No, you may not. It's top secret. I'm just kidding. I'm using epoxy sculpt. It's a 2-part epoxy clay that sets up in about 3 hours, and its workable time is about an hour to 2 hours. And it's really good for patching and blending into existing sculptures. For instance, this piece is a 3D print, and I'm fixing up places that I was unsatisfied with. Well, I'm attempting to do it without making it worse. That's the trick. Without making it worse, or without making them look like a different person. Inksta says, selling yourself short there, mate. Well, I'll tell you what. I work at a company that has over 100 artists, and many of whom are just mind-blowing. And so when you're in that close proximity to people who can do things that you can see you obviously can't do, it's very good for keeping you grounded, and I like being grounded. So his bottom lips are quite full, and they're not quite being reflected. Well, I mean, all his lips are quite full and are not being reflected yet. I think what I might do is just focus on getting the shape of the outer lip right now. And then once that's set in stone and dried, I'll go in and add the padding that goes in the middle. That's one of the nice things about working with this material, is you can do it in layers and stages like that. Inksta says, fair enough. I'm going to shoot off now as I've got to get my new brushes. Looking forward to your new tutorials. Awesome. Thanks for stopping by. Ellis Mar says, but you are the community's favorite artist. Ah, well, that's very sweet. So he's got this, I cannot remember what that muscle is called, but that little bulge on the side there that helps to anchor the mouth sphincter. I think if I add that, that will help. Probably give him an eyebrow on the other side of his head too. Alright, I feel like I'm getting close. It's hard to tell when it's all shiny. Still not quite getting that nostril right. It needs to go up a little bit, but every time I do that, it looks really wrong for some reason. May have got it. Dottie says, whenever I try to sculpt a mouth, the top lip always comes out looking more like a mustache. Yeah. That can... I'm trying to think when that's happened. I know it has before. DJ says, any new videos with Dan from Extra Credits in the works? Really enjoyed the Zero Horizon ones. Not yet. Typically what'll happen is I'll hear about a game coming out that I get really excited about, and I'll be like, hey Dan, let's do another one. And he's like, sweet, let's do it. But yeah, let me know if you think of any games that my analysis would be cool with that are coming out soon. Demi says, what happened? Livestream was interrupted. Back up now. Oh, was it? I didn't see that on my end. I do see a little note that popped up that said reconnection successful. So apparently I disconnected. I don't know why. Sorry about that. In case you missed it, DJ, my response to you was nothing in the works currently. Let me know if there's a game coming up that you think my particular take on would be cool, and I'll let Dan know. Wooden Potatoes. Hey, Mr. Potatoes. Says, hey Josh, I saw you tweeted about Blogging Heads TV a few days back. It blew my mind as I'm a big fan of Glenn Lowry, man. Yeah, well, me too. I discovered that blog, or that show, I don't know, maybe about 6 months ago, and yeah, I love his mind. I'm a big fan. I've been a big fan of John McWhorter since I got his teaching company lecture on language, how languages evolve and stuff like that. Super fascinating. Smart guy. Wood Potatoes says, very rare to see someone you know of mention small channels like that. Crazy stuff. Yeah, it's always funny when like, just podcasts in general are such a weird thing. Like, it's even worse than YouTube channels as far as there's this really like fragmented market to where there's apparently huge celebrities out there that you just have never heard of, and there's apparently millions of people who are huge fans of them. You're like, what? Who's that? My very favorite podcast is Sam Harris's Waking Up. And then after that, Hidden Brain is really awesome too. And then, yeah, Glenn Lowry's up there. Definitely one of my favorites. Well, somehow I got little black bits in there that are just gonna ruin my day. I think I'm just gonna let them lay, and once this is set, I'll spray paint it, do another primer coat, and then I'll be surprised, shocked and dismayed at what it looks like afterwards. Demi says, after you're done fixing this medallion, are you going to make a mold of it or rescan for printing? Yeah, I'm going to make a mold of it and make a set of them for promotional items, and then I also want to make a book cover that this will be set into the middle of, that I can put on the print-on-demand books to make some nice little collector's editions of the books. Angelic Butterfly says, I sent the Reddit link to your inbox on Facebook because it wouldn't let me link it here. Oh, thank you. Wooden Potato says, oh damn yeah, McWhorter gets a lot of heat for sure, but their discussions are great. They did some good ones on race versus IQ debate recently too, which was excellent. Yep, I listened to them all. I think I started watching with all that stuff at Evergreen, whenever that was. Yeah, Evergreen, our local crazy college. I'm a big fan of experimental education. That's cool. I'm glad people are doing it. Have you listened to Very Bad Wizards? You might like them too. Philosophy and psychology, but very irreverent, like super smart guys, but very irreverent, and they touch on current events and stuff as well. I think I might be at the stage where I'm just kind of randomly pushing stuff around, hoping that it will become something. It's not the best way to art. I mean, sometimes it works. Lil Graham says, cool, always looking for podcasts while I work. Have you heard The Sculptor's Funeral? Good, interesting listen. I have not. I'll have to check into that. Is it about sculpting? I've never even heard of a sculpting podcast. I hadn't thought to look for one. Wooden Potatoes says, oh wow, you watch them all. You're a bigger fan than me then. I envy all the time you find for creative outlets like this and listening to that stuff. Well, it's a matter of not listening to other stuff, I guess, you know. I'm in a commute, I'm in the shower, I'm getting ready in the morning. You know, it takes time to look as beautiful as I do, so I have lots of time to listen to stuff while I'm getting ready. Try to decide if I want to pop out some of these dreads further back on his head. I kind of feel like if you look at the profile, let's see, can we get a good profile shot? Like, you see how this dreadlock here is so far out compared to everything else, and then there's like this little valley here. I think I need to fill in some of those dreadlocks because I added to the eyebrow ridge, which meant then I had to add to the cheek ridge, which meant then I had to bring out this lock, which means all of these are now further back. So yeah, at least those are easy to do. Rolski says, wow, didn't know you had a YouTube channel. Great to see. Yes, I do. Like and subscribe. Burp, burp, burp. Logram says, yeah, it's a history of figurative sculpture. The who's who and who did what, generally based around Italy and Rome and the history or artistic architecture. Oh, that sounds cool. History podcasts are hard to pull off. I have heard some real duds, let me tell you. I mean, the first one I heard was Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, which is pretty darn good. But then someone told me I should check out The History of Philosophy Without Any Gaps. And that is just like as dry as can be. It's just like a guy reading a script that's like, it sounds like he's just reading a textbook. It's like the ideas are okay, are interesting in and of themselves, but man, it really comes down to presentation. Like, there's so much good material out there that if you don't have good presentation on top of it, why? I feel bad saying it, but like, why should I spend my time listening to your content when there are more interesting presentations out there? So every time I add another lock, I keep thinking, okay, now I need to add another one next to it and another one next to that, and it's just, it's cascading out of control, you guys. Logrim says, yeah, I just subscribed to that and the Viking podcast. It is presentation and host personality. Yeah, I think maybe one of the reasons that I listen to so many podcasts is because I listen to podcasts and audiobooks a lot. I listen to music when I'm sculpting in the garage. The reason I do so many podcasts is because I don't watch or listen to the news. I just don't care. I care about ideas and like big picture trends. I don't care about the day-to-day rigmarole that the world goes through. Which I don't know if that makes me a bad person, but like I still haven't looked into what went on at the Las Vegas shooting. It's just like, it's not because it has a negative emotional impact on me. I just like, I hate hot takes. I hate people making assumptions and guesses. That just annoys the crap out of me. That's probably the biggest reason I don't watch news. But I like podcasts because they usually come out days after, you know, events or whatever, and there's better information about it. And the podcast that I listen to, it's not just like, hey, this thing happened. It's like, you know, what's the ramifications of this thing? Like, what led to it? What's the context around it? That's the stuff that's interesting to me. Not like, who is this person? I just take for granted that there's a lot of crazy bad people out there and crazy bad things are going to happen because of that, so I don't care about that person. It's just like, yep, another crazy bad person did a crazy bad thing, whatever. Lil Graham says, we all remember bad teachers, but never their lessons. Yeah. I think I told this story once, but it's worth repeating. I had a teacher in grade school, I think it was 3rd grade. I had hit my thumb with a hammer, I think, and some weeks later, the thumbnail was tearing loose. And so I just pulled the whole thing off, and I had this nice just inkwell of blood just pouring out of my, you know, thumb pad where the nail had been. And I thought that was so cool, and I drew, or well, painted this awesome picture of an astronaut on Mars on I can't remember if it was paper or like tissue paper or something, but it was just so awesome that it was a painting in blood. And then my teacher saw it, and she was just like freaked out and crumpled it up and threw it away. I was so mad. I was like, why would you, why? Oh, it was so awesome. Anyway, that's my opinion of a bad teacher, is someone who throws away your blood painting. Your teachers should have classes on how to not throw away students' blood paintings. Citizen says, I hate politics. I would rather talk about something positive. I don't mind talking about negative things. I just don't, I don't like sensationalism. In general, it doesn't accomplish anything good. You know what I can't wait for in regards to politics is the first country that institutes a AI governorship, where they like hand over decision-making power to an artificial intelligence that calculates all the pertinent data and like makes decisions based on algorithms. And not because I think that'll solve anything. I mean, it might, but I'm super curious how that's going to end up. The knee-jerk reaction anyone has is like, of course that's going to be terrible. I'm not so sure. I think humans are just really bad decision makers, like really supremely bad. And so even something as flawed as an AI, it's going to be bad, but in different ways, and those different ways may end up in the big picture being not as bad. There's just so many cognitive biases and illusions that humans can't get over that AI won't have. Skynet, right. Yeah, that's what everyone thinks at first. You know, maybe, yeah, it could end up being that. But I mean, that's like a Hollywood idea. So they're usually not good at being accurate. Demi says, gotta go early today. Hope I don't miss too much of this medallion. Catch you next time, Josh. Yeah, I'm winding down, Demi, so have a great day on your beautiful island. Actually, pretty soon my landlord's going to be coming over and checking out my leaking water heater, which I discovered, well, I guess technically yesterday. I was moving some wood around trying to find something to create a swinging camera effect. Like, I want to, for my tutorials, I want to have the camera like pan around me. So I had this idea that I could do that by having an arm on a swivel that I could just move one side of it with my foot, and then it'll swing the camera around with the other. Oh man, it looks like my connection's getting really crappy again. Anyway, yeah, so I was digging around for wood and found out a bunch of my wood that was leaning against the water heater was like all soaked and musty, covered with black widows, and dug around through that and saw that, yeah, the water heaters was just leaking onto them. Is that all my clay? That's all my clay. I'm gonna take a little bit to build up this bottom eyelid just a touch, and then I'll call it a day. Adderboreal says, as in you want what would probably be a utilitarian government. As an artist? Weird, to be honest. I don't think that an AI necessarily has to be utilitarian, has to employ utilitarian philosophical problem solving. AI could be programmed to enact any number of systems for making those kind of determinations. Like, okay, this is something we're gonna have to face once we have self-driving cars everywhere. You know, we've got to figure out the trolley problem. We've got to figure out, okay, society, we're gonna save literally hundreds of thousands of lives every year with self-driving cars. However, there's going to be a small handful of times that a self-driving car is going to end up killing people through a conscious decision that it has to, well, conscious is the wrong word, a deliberate decision that it is forced to make. Like, there's always going to be some noise in the system. There's always going to be, you know, someone doing something stupid that forces the car to have to decide, okay, am I going to kill the passengers and the driver, or am I going to kill a pedestrian? And you can make those decisions based on utilitarian grounds or something else, or a mix. But yeah, that's gonna be sussed out one way or another. I don't think there's any way around it. It would be grossly immoral to say no to self-driving cars because they have to make those kind of decisions. Like, you really think it's better to have hundreds of thousands of people die unnecessarily because you're skittish about you know, a vehicle? So anyway, my point is, when you start going down that road of reasoning, you start thinking, well, what kind of policy decisions besides driving and who to kill could a computer do better than a person? And I don't know that it's that there's a good answer to that, but I'm curious about it. Citizen says, what time is it in your area? I just woke up. It's 7:02 a.m. in Washington State. Yeah, I had a weird night. It is 7 o'clock here as well. I went to bed at 8:30 and then woke up at 12:30 a.m. Couldn't go back to sleep, so I was like, no, 11:30. Woke up at 11:30 and tried to go back to sleep for an hour, and then decided, I should just get up and do stuff. So I started streaming at 4:45 this morning. Yeah, I've never streamed during this time before, and I thought it'd be fun to see if I get folks from the other side of the planet, more folks from the other side of the planet, and I did. So success. Alright, I think the last thing I need to do is put a little bit of texture on these dreadlocks. So I'm going to put too much texture on with this brush and then just brush it down with this solvent. This does a good job of adding some random noise. Is your guys' image super like pixely and blurry for you? Alright, it's kind of hard to tell because it's like shiny in some areas and not in others, and I think that eye still needs a little bit of work, but I think I've captured what I needed to capture. I definitely need to fill in the lips, the inside of the lips after this is set, but I think I got it pretty good now. Okay, everyone's saying the image is clear and fine. Okay, it's just for whatever reason the view on my YouTube is showing it really crappy. That's fine. Anyway, I think this is good for today, and so I'll be streaming again on Wednesday night as usual, and I've got that tutorial on hot glue bugs that I've been working on the live streams lately. That should be coming out in the next day or two, and I think that's all the housekeeping I got. So I'll stick around for a couple minutes after the stream ends to answer any wrap-up questions you guys might have, and have a good one. See you guys.